Hi, I'm Dan Richards, and this video goes with my Grabby Aliens SOP. The main character in this intergalactic tomfoolery is Robert Hansen. In 1996, he introduced the idea of the Great Filter, and in 2021 introduced the idea of Grabby Aliens. We'll get to both of these, don't worry. So, the original question that started this whole thing is, why are humans so early? So, basically what happened is, when evaluating the model of the development of life, having to get through some steps that we'll talk about momentarily, and comparing that to how long the Earth has been habitable and how long it will continue to be habitable, basically they figured out that we're early compared to what they expected to find. So it should have taken X amount of time to go from nothing to human life, but it actually took less than that. So why did that happen? Let's pause a moment there and talk about these steps. So for life to develop, it has to go through a series of hard steps. You start with self-replicating molecules. If you can't get there, you don't have anything. From self-replicating molecules, you go to single-cell organisms, eventually multi-cell organisms, eventually clumps of cells that will eventually start forming clusters of body parts that eventually, after a series of hard steps, become intelligent life, like us humans, or most of us. Anyway, there's this thing called the Great Filter. The Great Filter basically comes along and says, nope, you're done. This could happen for a number of reasons. Let's say that there's a planet out there and there's some life that's starting to develop and it gets to stage 3. So it's at I believe that's the multi-cell organisms. Great Filter comes along and says, nope, you don't have the resources to make it to the next hard step. So that life will either stop there and never progress further, or it will simply die out. The hard filter could also come along and say, hey, here's an asteroid to just blow up your planet. Well, life there is done. There could be some atmospheric phenomenon that happens every 100,000 years that says, hey, I know you're almost to intelligent life, but we're gonna have our phenomenon now. It's time. We cycle through this. It's regular. So sorry, we're gonna do our thing, and you're gonna have to start over. So there's all kinds of different reasons that fall under the hard filter for why life may not develop into intelligent life, into a civilization. So anyway, they figured out, okay, life on Earth developed early. Why is that? Well, Grabby aliens. We had to develop life on Earth before aliens came and took the planet. Because once another life form takes over a planet, there's no longer the opportunity for a new life form to start up on that planet. They start altering the environment by way of mining, colonization, infrastructure, all of those different kinds of things take away the opportunity for a new life on that planet to be born versus the existing life coming in and establishing itself there. So, Grabby aliens. There's 3 things that are assumed about Grabby aliens. The first is that they expand, they take up more space, that they do so at a rate of speed that is a fraction of the speed of light. So the typical models, I think, are presently going on a third of the speed of light for the most, whatever, for the most realistic, most common. And then that they leave visible changes wherever they go. So whether that be building a machine around a star that harnesses its energy, or doing massive buildings on planets, or hollowing them out and leaving holes, or whatever the case may be, they're leaving visible changes. So these Grabby aliens come along, they find a planet, they're like, oh, you have resources we need, we're gonna mine this planet. Or, oh, this planet is great for living on, we're gonna colonize this planet. Something happens to make it so that new life on that planet cannot be formed. So we're early because we had to beat the Grabby aliens before they got here to take our planet and colonize it, mine it, whatever they're gonna do. Now, that being said, we're not actually early. We arrived precisely when we were supposed to. Why do I say that? So, if you take the timeline within the context of when Earth will be habitable, which has been for about 4.5 billion years, and they think we've only got 1 to 2 billion years left. Anyway, if you take that context and how long humans have been around, and you plug that onto a bunch of different hypothetical planets in a hypothetical spherical universe, life on those planets will begin at different times, but they'll be relatively close together. Relatively, we're still talking billions of years here. And they'll still do it roughly at about the same speed. So, within this spherical universe, you have the first few planets to develop life. They make it past the hard steps, they become an intelligent civilization, and they become our grabby alien friends. So since they were there first, they have more time to start expanding and taking up space in our little universe ball that we have here. The ones that develop later, there's some space left, so they're more medium-sized. They start bumping up against the more established civilizations. And then the newest ones, they're really small because there's not much space left. Maybe they can only expand to one planet. Maybe there's nothing near them to expand to. But what this model found is that in the context of the habitable time frame of a planet, all of the life forms started developing roughly about the same time and expanding at about the same rate. It's just, when did that planet become habitable, and in relation to other planets around it, other planets within the universe. So the next thing, so now we know that we're not early. We arrived precisely when we intended to, just like Gandalf. That's a joke. But anyway, so the Grabby aliens, are they out there? Can we see them? Possibly? No. So, to explain that, there may be aliens out there somewhere. They may be Grabby. They may be doing things. But they're too far away for us to observe them. How do we know if they're there? How do we know this? Well, if they were close enough for us to observe them, that would mean that they're close enough to have grabbed our planet before life could have formed here. So when you think about space and time, and the speed of light, and the vastness of space, we can observe things far away in space. But because of the distance and the speed of light, we might be observing a planet being born, or a supernova, or you name the event. We might be observing that today, but it may have happened hundreds, thousands, millions, billions of years ago because of the time it took for that light to travel to Earth. So, any aliens that are out there would have to be at incredible distances, millions of light years away, in order to have not already been close enough to take over our planet before we could form. Now, that's not to say that there's not possibility within the scope of what we can see in that little space-time illustration. That's not to say that there aren't any planets close enough to us that we can see, that we can observe, that have life developing. There may be a planet that has life that's at the first hard step. It just developed self-replicating molecules, or maybe there's one at the second step where it just developed single-cell organisms. But because what we can see is so vast in space and time, we can't get to it to observe those microscopic happenings. So we can't say that it's happening, we can't say that it's not, we can surmise it based on habitability, but there may be something out there that challenges our idea of what does habitable mean. Just because a planet isn't habitable to us or understanding of life doesn't mean that it's not habitable at all. So, are aliens out there? Maybe. Are we going to see them in our lifetime? No. Are we going to see them eventually? If the Great Filter doesn't take us out, which, as I explained earlier, we've probably made it past because we're here and nobody else around us has made it past the first few hard steps, but there's a possibility it could still be in front of us. It's up for debate. So yeah, and then someday, in a 500 million years from now, we may become a Grabby civilization and go find aliens. So, Anyway, that is my explanation of Grabby aliens. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it made a little bit of sense, and I hope you have a great day.